Hello everyone. Yes, you knew this was going to happen. EA has bought Codemasters. Now, I've watched everyone else's videos, so I'm not going to go over a lot of the points that they've already raised, but I am just going to say that this is really, really bad news for the Formula One franchise. Now, back in the noughties, EA made their own Formula One games. Yes, they started with this one. Yes, it was a load of shite. Then they went on to this one, which was another load of shite. And then they did this one, which was 4 levels of shite. And then, of course, they concluded with this one, which was 27 levels of shite. Yes, F1 Career Challenge. Then they got fed up and decided, oh, we won't make any more Formula One games. And then the license went exclusively to Sony. Yes, so that's how much commitment EA have got to Formula One games. Pretty much none at all. Now, of course, not going to go on with the fact that the microtransactions that EA employs is going to be really damaging to anyone who really can't afford these Formula One games, especially during a pandemic. But what does this mean actually for the F1 franchise? Well, of course, this station is F1 Games PlayStation, so let's talk about the games at the moment. We should be okay for the F1 2021 game on the PlayStation 4. Now, there's a user base at the moment of 110 million, so they're going to release that on the PlayStation 4. That'll be the foundation. That'll be what makes them possibly the most money, so everything will be fine. And to be honest, all they've got to really do is just copy-paste F1 2020 and everything should be okay. Now, of course, the problem will be the next generation versions on PlayStation 5 because they've got to build that from the ground up. But it won't be as bad as 2015, hopefully, because unlike when they went from that generation on the PlayStation 3 with the Cell broadband engine, which was very, very complicated to program for, then they went over to the PS4, which basically has PC architecture in it. In this case, they're going over to the PS5, which once again is just really a development of the PS4, to be honest. So they've got that little bit of groundwork, so it's not going to be too complicated for them to make the next gen game, but it's still not going to be easy. And the reason why it's not going to be easy is because now they've got to sort out everything to do with EA. The branding and everything has got to be applied now to everything that they make, and there is a rumour that they could be amalgamating teams. This fundamentally is going to take the focus away from the next Formula One game. And then they've got the added pressure of 2022 when all the new cars come into effect, so they've got to change basically the game engine again. So for the next few years, Codemasters are up the shit without a paddle, to be honest. And I do feel a little bit concerned about the end product that we are going to receive for all us Formula One fans. I just can't see it being of any merit. The PlayStation 4 version, as I say, will probably be okay. The PlayStation 5 version, well, we just know it's going to be full of microtransactions and it's going to have the EA stamp of approval all over it. Now, we know why they brought them. It's pretty obvious. eSports. Yes, they wanted their little bit slice of the pie so they can put their brand in EA Sports all over the eSports brand. And that's just going to be a complete and utter disaster, in my opinion. Absolutely. It is fair to say that Codemasters games have been reducing in quality these past few years. And the thing is, they came out with Grid, which was quite possibly the best game that they've ever produced. And that's when they should have stopped, because Grid 2 was rubbish. And the same with Formula 1. They brought out F1 2010, which was the greatest entry in the series, and then F1 2011 was rubbish. You see, it's all about diminishing returns. You make a great game and the next game it's got nowhere to go. How can you improve on a game where it's already almost perfection? You just can't. So the next game, just like in the movies, the next game is just not as good, and then it just completely diminishes over time until it's basically a shadow of its former self. So I have real fears here that this is not good news for us Formula One gamers with EA. Now, EA, I do believe, just looking at the Google here, I think they're the 3rd biggest company. Now, of course, that means that they could have gone in for that bid and taken over Codemasters at any time they wanted to from Take-Two Interactive, because they're only number 8 in the biggest companies. So they could have kept outbidding them till the sun came down, basically, and they would never have got be able to come back with a bigger offer. So, yeah, EA were very, very sneaky there. Very, very sneaky indeed. And just they've waited, 3 weeks before they've suddenly gone, oh, we'll buy you, don't worry, for $1.2 billion. We'll buy you. Yes, that's just EA all over it. Now, in a few years' time, my greatest fear is that EA will get bored with F1 just like they get bored with everything else. I mean, look at Need for Speed. Absolute shite. Every year it's the same old crap. And, I mean, this gives you confidence in the product when eventually it ends up being sold for free on PSN as one of the free monthly games. Yes, the latest version of Need for Speed ended up for free on PSN. Yes, that's how shite it was. It really was. So I fear in a few years' time the same thing's going to happen with Formula 1. They're going to get bored with it. Maybe the popularity of F1, which, let's not forget, it's not really up there at the moment, is it? It's not really right up there, to be honest. It's sort of, a straight line at the moment. If that starts to dip, then EA could quite rightly start to get bored with it. Now, the problem is Codemasters. Codemasters are now owned by EA Sports. So there is no getting out of it. They can't say, oh, no, it's okay. We'll go off on their own now. They can't do that because they're now part of EA. But the thing that EA Sports can do is completely swallow up Codemasters, completely swallow them up until there's basically nothing left. And it's all done by the EA Sports branding. And that will just be a very, very sad day indeed. It really will. No, it's just... So anyone that thinks that this deal with EA is a good idea, you're basically an idiot. Yes, I'm sorry, but you are basically an idiot. Apart from the fact that they're going to bring more money to the table, which is going to be a good thing because F1 games in particular need that little bit more cash injection, because you can see that some of the things that aren't finished in these games is basically a result of not having enough cash. It's a sad fact, but it's true. Yes, Codemasters are still a fairly small company, even though they've done things themselves like buying up Slightly Mad Studios. They also took on a lot of employees from Evolution Studios as well, don't forget. And now they have become quite a big brand in themselves. I mean, they've opened up a new studio as well, so they've got 2 studios now running. And of course, they've just brought out Dirt 5, but Dirt 5, well, it didn't really have the accolades that I think it was expecting, really, did it? No. And it was basically just Dirt 2 remastered, basically, in my opinion anyway. There was nothing really stand out and special about it. And, it has to be said, the same has been happening with the F1 games. I mean, the latest F1 game with the My Team, it is basically just a change of livery for your car, and that's all you can do. And you've got to stay in that car for the whole 10 seasons. Which, of course, is not good. It would have been a lot better if you could have actually left your own team and joined another team, like one of the McLarens or one of the Mercedes, and let your own team run itself. Yeah, that would have been great. Especially if you'd been in the team for a couple of years and developed it as much as you could and got a really good car out of it. You could then have left that team and gone to somewhere else and seen how your own team would have developed. I think that would have been a great idea, but you can't do that. You've got to stay in that same car for the whole of the 10 seasons or, for however long it takes before you get bored, which for most people is probably about 2 seasons into any of these career modes. I can't believe anyone's actually completed 10 seasons of a career mode. I honestly can't see it, no, unless they're doing 5-lap races. I mean, if you're doing like 50% races, which is pretty standard for people if they're playing F1 games, there's just no way you'd be able to get through 10 seasons. And don't forget, of course, you've got the other 10 seasons on the standard careers mode. So 20 seasons. Just no one's going to do that. No one's going to do that. So that's one thing Codemasters need to focus on as well. 10 seasons is way, way, way too long. Way too long. The old games used to be 5, and that used to be absolutely perfect. In 5 years, you could get like 3 or 4 changes of team, and then in year 5, you used to really be able to put a real challenge in for the championship. But with this 10 seasons, I mean, it's pretty much gone in about 3 or 4 seasons, and then you've got another 6 or 7. There's just nothing to do really except change teams, and that's it. There's no really motivation for you to carry on. This was especially bad in F1 2016, of course, when you could develop the car within about 2 seasons and it was like a rocket ship. But of course, then all the other cars started to catch up with you and you started to actually drop down the grid. So yeah, that was bad. That's why in 2017 they introduced, of course, the 122 different development paths, which basically made it longer for you to get through the whole 10 seasons. But I say just forget about 10 seasons. That's just a stupid... I don't even know why they come up with 10 seasons. Why did they come up with 10 seasons? Apart from the fact, of course, there's 10 cars, different teams on the grid. So that could be 1 season for every car. But I mean, apart from that, I just can't see the logic behind 10 seasons. It's just way too long for anyone. And everyone just gets bored. So it's pointless to add it on. And of course, you've got the other problem, which is, of course, save files. Yes, because so many people have corrupted save files, they can't even get to the end of this game anyway, because the save files just get corrupted by about season 3 or season 4. And they have to start again. So there's just really no point in making a season that long, because having to stretch the save out to 10 seasons and for the save to have to remember every single permutation that happens in that save, it's just asking too much and it's stretching the game just too much and it just can't cope. So yeah, it's pointless, Codemasters, to have 10 seasons in a game. Absolutely pointless. Reduce it down to 5 again and then maybe the save will be able to cope. That's all you need. You don't need any more than 5 seasons in a championship. It's ridiculous. It really is. So Codemasters, sort it out. Anyway, that's me rambling. I'm about to stop now. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. Don't forget what the comments are there for. They're there for you to make a comment. What do you think about EA? As I said, personally, I think it's a terrible idea. Absolutely terrible and very, very bad news for Formula 1 games in general, especially on PlayStation, which of course is what my channel name is called. I just, no. I mean, they're going to charge money for everything. Yeah, you may not even be able to drive some of the tracks without having to pay a couple of dollars or a couple of pounds. I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen. They'll probably put some extra tracks in the game, but you'll have to pay for them. Yes. Now, of course, during a pandemic, this is even worse because people are really tight on money. And so they don't want to spend extra money on extra bits just that should have been in the game in the first place. Of course, this is a worrying trend that now is happening in video games. Of course, if you remember Tomb Raider, the last Tomb Raider, they started putting extra tomb levels in that you had to pay for separately. And that's just not good. That's just not good. Anyway, enough of my rambling. That's it from me, and that's probably it from F1 games forever. But it's been a good run, I have to say. And so thanks so much for watching, everyone. You've been awesome as always, and I'll catch you in the next video. Just tell me what you think. I'm gonna go for a lie down now and go and pick up those crappy EA games that I've just thrown over my shoulder because they're all over the place. Thank you, everyone, and goodbye.